Welcome. This is the M&C Move the Stairs Friday chat, and today we're going to talk about how to build your CBD audience online and build it with loyalty so they come back over and over. And this comes from the fact that I was speaking at the Oregon Hemp Conference on Wednesday. We were talking about brand protection, but the first thing you want to do in brand protection is to make sure that you build a community. We call this the Move the Stairs chat because one of our mantras at M&C is to move the stairs. Sarah, you want to explain a little bit about that?
Well, I love this idea. So this came from your experience producing in the field for network news when John McCain was going to get the nomination, and then he was going to come down the stairs. And of course, the first network TV station who gets him wins. And but the problem was the stairs were going to the other station, not to you, except that the stairs, right, were movable. So you picked them up and you moved them over to your side. And then John McCain came right down those stairs after accepting the nomination, right to you. So yay, and you won. But what I love about this story, and Jordan and I talk about this all the time, is that it's the idea is you use what you have. You use what's in front of you. You don't go, oh man, I wish I could, maybe I could talk to somebody, or I could figure out how to get them over here, or I could block them off, or like you're not wishing. You're looking at what you have and you're figuring out how to make it work.
That's right. You get what you get and you don't throw a fit. Isn't that what they teach our children? That's
what I tell my children all the time.
That's right.
So that's what Move the Stairs means. And that's why we've named this blog the Move the Stairs blog, because what we're talking about, the common element in everything that we talk about every single week is you use what you've got and you make the absolute best of it. That's what we're here to do this week, talking about building a loyal CBD online community. And I love the idea of talking about community because we're really, doing a lot of work in that space lately and bringing people together and helping people feel part of a community.
Absolutely. Jordan, you want to talk a little bit about building the community and why it's important?
Yeah, of course. When you're trying to integrate the Move the Stairs, message with that, you just look at everything that we have been through in 2020. It started with the COVID-19 pandemic. Yeah, seriously, no kidding. Has it been 6 months since 2020 or 60 years is what it seems like? But, we started with the COVID-19 pandemic, and how do we adapt to that? And, of course, today being Juneteenth, was some of the Black Lives Matter movement across the country right now too. So that message of community has been so strong. And we're going to talk about, why empathy is so very important here in this chat as well, when you're talking about building that community, because that's where we are in 2020. We have just been so beaten down with everything. I think we all need a little break and, to lean on one another for that support.
Yeah.
It's so true. And I think that always in every type of challenge, there is an opportunity, and the key is for you to find it. So there's some new research that's out from Brightfield that talks about CBD in particular. And they talk about how those people that are using CBD, this was about in April that they did this survey, and they interviewed about 1,600 people. So this is not a small survey, but of those who use CBD, about 39% said that they were going to increase their use, and that about a third said that they were going to go to online. And while we know that online doesn't have great loyalty, what we do know, which is really cool, is that if you do a really good job, there's a real stickiness factor online. So it's a great way for you to sit there and really build the community online. And there's all these reasons to do it. So e-commerce sales are sticky. Brand loyalty isn't that strong, so you don't have to go up against a huge
lots of opportunity
big
there,
right? Yeah, and so this is the time to really, really focus on this. Sarah, you want to talk about who we're talking to, because that's always a huge thing. It's not everybody.
Right, demographics. So, and I just wanted to follow up really quickly. Look at this number. Buyers are using CBD for self-care. So to follow up on what Jordan was just talking about, this idea of creating a community, that's that compassionate, empathetic area that you can really build on to create that kind of community as we're all kind of taking care of ourselves a little bit and, building that community. is so important. So here's what we're talking about now, tailoring your message. So who's using CBD? We know this. It's going to be Gen Z and millennials. And Gen Z and millennial, just like Gen X and baby boomers, have their own language, right? They've got their own shorthand, their own...
Totally.
Dude,
right? They enjoy different things. Millennials are into craft beer and CBD and, other things like that. So one way to reach out and talk to this demographic is to just ask, right? What are you interested in? What do you like? Keep it simple, guys. Use ask them online. Put together a Google poll. Send it out by email. You can create polls on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook really, really easily, and they'll total it up. So survey them. What are you guys interested in? What do you want to see more of? What are you not interested in? What are you looking for us to be talking about? And that's a real opportunity when you're talking to this Gen Z and millennial audience. The other thing, and I know this is scary for Gen Z and millennials, this is called a phone, and you can pick it up, and you can call people, and you can talk to them. And
what?
I know.
You can't text?
You could. But I want you to pick up the phone, and I want you to call people. And I'll give you an example why. I answered a call yesterday. It was somebody in the media, and he said, "Hi, this is so-and-so Beatty." And I said, "Beatty or Beatty?" Because my name's Beatty. And he goes, "Oh, are you a Beatty too?" And I said, "Yeah." And we started talking about our Scottish fisherman clan ancestors in Northeast Scotland, and his aunt had gone there. And we had this whole conversation. I don't know this guy from Adam. He doesn't know me. But he does now. And we have people, right? So that was a really cool situation that was enabled by picking up the phone. And you just don't know what little tidbits, what relationships, what interesting things you might surprisingly get out of a phone conversation that you wouldn't normally get. And the other thing, we just talked about this a few minutes ago, use their words. Totally, says Jordan. There's GIFs, or we fight over this all the time. GIFs, GIFs? GIFs. So he's wrong. And
I'm just saying that because you have seniority.
Damn straight.
A lot of seniority.
We're not going to talk about how much seniority, but you're going to use their words. You're going to use, you're going to use the language of the people that you're trying to contact. And so it's going to be really smart to think about who your demographic is. Is it older women who are using it for relaxation and pain relief? Well, you're going to use a different set of language than if it's young triathletes who are using it to really get an edge in their training regimen, right? That's two different sets of vocabulary. So you're going to use those words, and I would encourage people to have someone of that demographic.
Sarah, one of the things that I do when I'm doing those phone calls is I am either typing or writing verbatim what they say. And then really I go back and I pull out those phrases and I put them in a special place so that when I'm writing, I remember how did they speak to me, because I want to speak back to them using the same phraseology. And that's really important when you're developing content, because you can really connect with someone that way.
Yeah.
I just want to jump in really quick too. As you're, looking at this content, and if you're just kind of going at it, you don't have maybe a solidified plan, and that's okay. That's totally okay. Because, a lot of these company pages, they take a little while to grow, especially with the Facebook analytics, not being too kind to organic growth. But you can look at those analytics, and even if nobody is talking back to you on your posts, you can see how many eyeballs see it. You can see how long they're watching your videos for. So even if they're not necessarily giving you that one-on-one feedback, you're still going to be able to use those tools to see what posts are doing better and what posts maybe you want to steer away from, so that you can continue to build your brand and hopefully let that kind of translate to, building a loyalty within that following consumer base too.
Well, and that's a really good transition into what we call sort of inelegantly content buckets. Mm-hmm. And you know, it's sort of a silly name, but I think that it's really important, Jordan, based on that advice. So when you put similar things into a bucket, you can kind of count against that bucket.
Yeah.
So give an explanation as to what these buckets might look like.
Yeah, so we do this with all of our clients, and we do it for ourselves too. I mean, this Facebook Live video falls in one of our content buckets, believe it or not. But what we're looking at trying to do is really laser focus our message into different topics, and then we can measure how those topics are doing and all the traction that they're garnering or not garnering. It's okay if they don't, because then you can adjust your strategy based on that. So, you know, when we're talking about CBD, it's so important to educate people on CBD, because let me tell you, when I started at M&C, I knew next to nothing. Thank you, Diane Mulligan, for educating me. But I really didn't know a whole lot. And it's really important, especially people who may be looking at trying those products for the first time, to have a steady cadence out there of educational guidance on, you know, this is what it is, this is what it does, this is what it's used for.
Well, and we're learning, Jordan, all the time. We're learning new information, so it's a great opportunity, right, to take that information and pass it along from very reputable people and very reputable sites, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. You need to make sure that any information you're sharing is good, solid, reputable, you know, scientific or really good, useful information that doesn't come from a questionable source.
And can I jump in here real quick?
Yeah,
too, because I think it's really important that we remember no medical claims. You do not want to raise the ire of the FDA. Right. So no medical claims. We don't have the messaging guidelines yet on what you're allowed to say and what you're not allowed to say. So no matter what, it should not have to do with anything. So I would not say it's a cure for anything. I would even stay away from talking about specific medical illnesses, because you don't want to do that. Also, just remember that self-care and wellness are the number one things people are looking for, so they want information on that.
Yes.
And what's great is that, okay, this is one of those silver lining things that's kind of weird. Because of all the anxiety that's going on in our country right now, and people are talking constantly about how they're feeling it, this is a great opportunity for you to talk about wellness, tranquility, serenity, or energy, because we know that different products are going to give you a different sense of well-being. And so you want to talk about those things. So that's really important. The other thing that we've noticed is that if the FDA is looking at you as a company and you have testimonials that make medical claims, that say this really helped me with this ailment associated with arthritis, or associated with multiple sclerosis, or associated with some other type of specific medical ailment, I'm going to ask you to hide those for right now. The reality is that it's not worth what you're going to have to go through with the FDA. So when you're in that initial bucket that we're talking about education, it's just really educate based on, you can educate based on medical literature that's out there. You can absolutely do that, but don't make any claims whatsoever.
The other thing that I love here is you talk about using particular words. And so we talked about this just a minute ago, that you're talking to your audience. So self-care, health, relaxation, anxiety, using emotional words like tranquility, serenity, calm. That all falls under this sort of informational bucket of, you know, here's some useful information. And it could be maybe not necessarily connected to a CBD product. So you could share a post on social media like, here's a great technique for when you're in a stressful situation and you need to calm your mind, and here's how you do it. It falls in that informational bucket. It falls in under self-care and those use of words, but it's not necessarily talking about CBD. It's not saying CBD will lead to this. It's just saying we're talking about a lifestyle.
Right. Yeah. And this is who we are as a company. This is what we care about.
And I should say too, we're about 15 minutes into our Facebook Live. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them below. Some of you may be watching on replay. That's totally fine too. Definitely rewind to where Diane was talking about the FDA regulations. I think that was right around 12 to 13 minutes into the video, because that's some really, really important stuff, especially as you're turning to use social media to try to build your brand. And I think, Sarah, you brought up a really great point, is you don't have to necessarily be pushing your product with every single post. It's okay to have a little bit of fun, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. You don't want to do that necessarily. Have a little bit of fun. And I mean, that's part of building your brand and building relationships within your community. And, you know, you think of community like your neighbors next door. Guess what? You're online. Your community can be anywhere, friends, anywhere in the world, which is really cool.
Well, and I want you to think about this as a conversation. So if you had a friend that you were getting to know, you wouldn't necessarily come out and say, this is what I make and this is what I do and it's really good for you. That's not the conversation.
That's weird.
Having, right? I mean, that would be really weird.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing on social media when you're only putting up information about your product, when you're only talking about your product's attributes. That's not what this is. That's not how to build a loyal community, and it's certainly not how to get engagement. So absolutely, a quarter of the time, you can put up information and really push your product. That's fine. But I would say more than once a week, it's going to get a little hard for people, and you're not going to get engagement because you're just selling. And you know, I want you to go ahead and give the discounts. I mean, I'm constantly watching for the discounts for all the different products that I tried over the past. In fact, I just met with a friend this weekend and was telling her about some products, and I said, I will get you some and send them to you. And then I thought about how much money I was going to be spending by doing that. And I emailed her and I said, as soon as I get a coupon, I'm going to get you some and send them to you. So, and I check my email every day to see what's coming out. But I don't expect somebody to be hitting me constantly on social media with those coupons. That's not where I want to do that. I want to have a relationship and talk to them about how cool their product is or what this did, or even, here's a new idea I have for calming down. I love that thing that you shared with me. That was so cool, and I'm going to share it again too. And it has maybe nothing to do with your product, but remember, your name is always on that post. That's all you need.
Yeah. And I was just going to say, you know, in the fun department, we, for M&C, you know that we are big dog people, like ridiculous dog people. So, and cat, yes. And absolutely. You guys are the cat people. So, you know, we have videos and photos, and like for National Pet Day, we'll share stuff, or for, you know, occasionally on a Friday, or if we've got some, you know, great photo of the critters that go through your yard, like the bear this morning.
I had a big bear, a very, very big bear, walk right down my driveway this morning. It was really cool.
And that just kind of gives the personality that helps somebody who doesn't know you, who is connecting with you only online, get a sense of who you are. You know, do I like this company? Do I like these people? Do they seem like people that I would want to hang out with? You know, you're creating an authentic relationship. So two-way engagement, and we talked about this a minute ago, there are a zillion ways to do this. You can do surveys. You can ask questions on social media. You can pick up the phone and call people. You can, you know, do polls. You can do them on different social media channels. You know, if you are having a conversation with somebody, just like you pointed out, Diane, and somebody just totally takes over the whole conversation, doesn't let you get a word in edgewise, and tells you about everything they've done and where they go on vacation, what they ate for lunch, and what they do, and all. That's not a conversation. That's getting talked to. It's not two-way. It's not. Yeah, it's a diatribe. Boo. So really look for those opportunities to ask your audience to engage in this conversation and listen to them.
Jordan, you have some great things that you do for some of our clients, asking them to engage. And I'm just throwing this at you, so I hope I'm not speaking out of turn here, but can you give them some ideas of some of the things that you've asked people to do?
Yeah, so I like to ask questions. Sometimes I'll put up a post that says, you know, here's what's happening. Tell us how you feel about it, with a GIF, Sarah Beatty.
A GIF. You are wrong.
I think when you ask a question, it really encourages, people to engage with you. And if you're just kind of getting started on social media, this is where you turn to family and friends, because the more engagement that your post gets, and if you've got a little bit of help from family and friends to get that started, it's going to encourage other people who may otherwise be quiet on social media to get involved with your page. And I think as you're getting back to them too, that two-way street of engagement is really important, to not only have a steady cadence in doing that, but also a steady message too. If you have 3, 4, or 5 different people responding to people on social media, the message may get lost. And that's okay to have 4 or 5 different people responding, but make sure that you have priorities set or messaging in place so that your company's brand doesn't get lost as you're working really hard to build that loyalty.
Absolutely. And I think it's important that you respond fairly quickly.
Mm-hmm.
If it's just a like or a heart,
Mm-hmm.
that's okay. You don't have to write a comment out every time. But the more you comment, the more they will comment.
Yeah.
Because you took the time to do that, and they're not expecting it. I think
Mm-mm.
that's so important. I was on a flight, obviously, quite a while ago. I was in Phoenix, and I was flying one airline, and I swear to God, this came on. We're getting ready to board, and they come on the speaker, and it was Friday at 1:30, and they said, we've had problems with this plane, and the next plane out to Denver will be on Monday at 2:30. Remember, I said it was Friday at 1:30. Next plane will be Monday at 2:30, and I burst out laughing because it was like an SNL thing that was going on. Like, what?
What?
Are you kidding? I went on, and I had my computer with me. I went on, and it turned out there was a Southwest flight a half an hour later, and it was cheaper. And the one thing about this other airline said that they were going to refund us, so that was good, and they did. But I called everybody over, and we booked everybody immediately on the Southwest flight, and we went tearing through the airport, and we got home earlier than we would have gotten home.
And you were a hero.
Well, but the funny part was I texted Southwest, and I put a text. Actually, I just tweeted. I didn't text. I tweeted. I just put a tweet on M&C that said, "Thank you at Southwest Airlines. You just saved all of us. There are 30 people who are really happy because our other flight got canceled." And within 5 minutes, I had a response. That just blew my mind. And certainly it reinforced my loyalty to flying with Southwest, even if it might be a little bit more expensive. I feel better than the airline that said I would have to sleep in the airport for 3 days.
Oh, gee whiz. I had that with Lodge cast iron. So you know that I am a big chef and I love my cast iron. And I forget what I said. It was something about, use your downtime to season your cast iron pans. Lodge cast iron saw it because I did #cast iron, and Lodge saw it, retweeted it, comment, and said, "Show us your pans, baby." And I'm like, "Oh, yay!" And I haul out my pans. I know it's ridiculous. And yet I felt seen for my love of cast iron.
Oh, but you love the fact that they just said, "Show us your pants." But okay.
Well,
anyway,
that might be true.
People want to feel appreciated. And if you're reaching out to them, they want you to like or comment or share, but to respond and to try and do that. At M&C, we have a list of companies that we really look at their social every day. We just put it in a Twitter list. We look at their Facebook. We look at Instagram. It takes now probably, I'd say 20 minutes a day, but man, it's 20 minutes that is really well spent.
Mm-hmm.
And when we respond to them, many times we get another response back. And that's great because now you've got that conversation going on, which is really, really cool. So what happens, guys, if it's a negative? If it's a negative comment, what do we do?
I mean, you're going to get them. You're bound to, right?
Oh, for sure.
And, to go back on what I was talking about before, if you have multiple people, managing your pages, you have to have messaging in place, because you don't want to have one person that says, "OS, private message us," and another person who ignores it and doesn't say anything. you really need to have some sort of protocol in place so that you can address that in a way that doesn't reflect negatively on your company, yourself, or your product, but also tries to get the best of that situation for any of the other eyeballs that may see that negative comment.
Well, and I think that that's a really important thing. So what we tell clients is if you get a negative response and it's somebody who maybe didn't have a great experience, they're not just an out and out troll. They're going, hey, my box was crushed when it arrived. You have an opportunity, you're moving the stairs, to say, oh my gosh, so-and-so, really sorry about this. Could you private message me and we'll get this resolved? Because you are resolving that issue for that client, but you're also showing anyone else who is following your social media and maybe interested in buying from you that you are a responsive company and you take these things seriously. So that's if someone has a legitimate complaint. But the key there is, gosh, so-and-so, we are so sorry, private message me.
Yeah, get it out of the public space.
You're getting it out of the public space. You do not want to have this conversation about exactly the minutia of the issue or what might have happened. You're not having this conversation in public. You're getting it off the page as quickly as you can so that you can get it resolved as quickly as you can.
How many times do you think you should answer a negative comment and go back and forth with somebody?
Like a trolley troll?
Yeah.
Twice.
Yeah, I think so too.
You know, you say if you get an out and out turkey online, you just go, oh gosh, so sorry. You know, how can we make it right? Right? Start there.
Right.
If it becomes clear that there is absolutely no way you can make it right, you know, hey, I'm not sure I don't know that you respond after that. If they're just snarling, you kind of leave them out there snarling. Now, if they're, you know, bombing your page with a bunch of garbage, then I think you're well within your rights to just hide that if they're just out there to cause trouble. But the interaction is twice. You gosh, so sorry. What can I do to make it right? And then if they're just belligerent after that, one more response, one more asking them what you can do. And if you can't make them happy, move on.
The other thing that I find is that if you have that relationship, you've built that community, many times your community will start to respond to whoever is trolling you. And that's fantastic. When that starts to happen, then be quiet. Let your community stand up for you. That is one of the best situations that I have seen that happen over and over and over again. So if you get that negative comment and it's not something that you think you can, let's say it's really out of left field, and it's not something like I need help with this, or I had a problem with this product, or I don't understand this, but it's something out of left field, your product sucks type of stuff.
Or CBD is terrible and immoral, and like you're just not going to win that person over.
Right.
I would say give it 5 minutes and see if somebody else responds before you even have to respond.
We see this a lot.
Right? I mean, it can make a difference, because that tends to shut people down much more quickly if it's one of those left field things than if you start to engage. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't engage. So you have to be on top of your social media. We have notifications every time someone comments on our page. You definitely need to have those things so that you know what's going on and somebody who's actually watching that stuff.
Yeah.
I want to talk about monitoring.
Monitoring. Oh, which is one of my favorite things. So Jordan,
she is a total monitoring nerd.
I know. I kind of am a data and analytics nerd. So Jordan and I share this nerdiness because we use the same tools and they are awesome. So we've got some really sophisticated tools that can monitor kind of the whole social media landscape, all of it, everything online, basically, instantly. That comes with a fairly hefty price tag. So it's a great tool on behalf of our clients, but it's probably not one that, you know, a small company might necessarily have. But just like Diane, you just said, you can set instant notifications on all your social media. So anybody comments, anybody likes, anybody shares, engages with your stuff in any way, you get an immediate notification from any of your social media channels. You can also set Google alerts. So you'll get a roundup and you can decide, do I want to be notified immediately? Now, immediately is subjective, and
relative.
Relative. It's a little squishy. So don't assume that it's like the immediate notification that you get from your social media accounts, but you can absolutely set a Google alert and just see, is anybody out there talking about me? And those are two no cost ways to keep an eye on what's being said about you in the social media space.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's important to stay up to speed on that too, because some people, I know it's scary. Social media can be scary. You know, even if they're saying nice things about you, you're just waiting for that one person to come back with a negative comment. And, you know, it's bound to happen. And the sooner that you can accept that, the sooner you can get into some really good practices when it comes to social media or Google reviews or Yelp or anything like that. And that should be a thing that you check in on as well. Maybe it's a bi-weekly thing or a weekly thing, depending on how often you're seeing those reviews coming in. But that is, something that could slip kind of by the wayside if you're not careful to stay on top of it.
Well, and we talk about how consistency is king. Sorry,
Right.
Diane.
Right. I just wanted to ask real quick, Jordan, I'd love you to explain real quickly about hashtags on Twitter and Instagram and how using those.
Absolutely. I mean, hashtags are like the primary way to search on Instagram. I think you can do that on Facebook too, but not as I'm anti-hashtag on Facebook. Some people like them on Facebook, whatever. So it's kind of thrown away, but especially on Twitter and Instagram, if you are seeing hashtags,
LinkedIn too now.
Yep, LinkedIn too. Right.
Yeah.
So, if you're searching hashtags on all three of those platforms, you may be seeing hashtags that you're not using that a lot of other people are using, that the community that you're trying to, either break into or bring into your group is using. So that's incredibly important to stay on top of, what those are, who's using them, how frequently they're using them, and how you can best get into that conversation as well.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay,
Sarah, let's talk about consistency.
Consistency is king. Okay.
It is king.
And we've kind of alluded to this. So we develop content for our clients and for our own social media on a monthly basis. So we have a pretty good idea of what's going where and what's getting published on social media throughout the month, which is great. You might do it on a weekly basis, then you're going to be scrambling, I guarantee you, every Friday. So just think about what amount of time that you have available to get ready for this. But look at things overall so that you know that, holidays, you're always going to have holiday content, right? Because 4th of July is 4th of July every single year.
Right.
But you can develop this cadence of content and it becomes consistent. And then you could, using those buckets that we talked about earlier, you could say, okay, Monday, we're going to talk about this subject. Tuesday, we're going to talk about this subject. I've reviewed my Google Analytics, and I know that my biggest sales day is Wednesday at, between 9 and 11. Your Google Analytics might say that, or your sales data might say that. So I'm going to throw out a post every Wednesday about a product. That's my 25% or 20%, product post every week, so that it's consistent. And the other thing, the key piece here is don't go dark. Don't 1 month go gangbusters and you've got content left, right, and sideways. And then the next month you get really busy and stuff is going on. And you just kind of go, oh yeah, I haven't posted anything in a while. Well, you're not going to build an audience that way. The algorithms are not going to reward you for that. And your customers are not going to reward you for that because you're not engaging with them. They can't trust you to be there, which is a little dramatic, but really, I mean, again, this is a relationship, an authentic relationship. You need to be there at their moment of need. So consistency is king.
Most of the channels have scheduling tools that are free.
Yes.
So you can actually say, Sunday night, I'm going to spend 1 hour and I'm going to schedule, if you were doing all the channels, you could probably do them in an hour if you were really thinking about it.
Yeah. And Twitter, by the way,
go ahead.
Twitter has just rolled out a scheduling feature. So you can schedule on Twitter where you, and I think almost everybody has access to that new feature that is available for free on Twitter. So you don't have to go to an additional platform like Sprout or Hootsuite or something like that to schedule on Twitter.
I also want to make sure you understand that Facebook, people go to Facebook and people who are going to Facebook, think of me. That's who's on Facebook. And my age, maybe a little bit younger. But Facebook is a great place to kind of expand. That's great for educational posts and that type of thing. But then Twitter's really important because that's where the journalists are, and that's where you can get real strong conversations going back and forth. So remember, it's 280 characters now, not 140 anymore, and that every journalist is on Twitter. And if you're really trying to develop your company and to show what a great product you have and to build credibility, which will help you build a loyal following, then you need to be on Twitter and you need to be talking with those journalists. LinkedIn is much more for thought leadership. Mm-hmm. So when you're going to put something on LinkedIn, I want you to think about really talking about things that matter, things that are important to business people, things about your business. That's what you're really doing there. It's more B2B than B2C on LinkedIn. And then Instagram is definitely B2C. And I want you to really think about visuals. Visuals matter more than anything. And Jordan, do you want to talk a little bit about the stories function and how that works?
Yeah, you're good at that.
Yeah, for sure. And before I dive into that, I want to back up a little bit about the Twitter and journalists too. You hear journalists, and I don't want you to think like your local news station, although that would be cool if they did a story on your product, but also in that space are trade publications. And you know, some of your consumers are going to be looking at those trade publications because maybe they're eager to learn, more about CBD or hemp. So that's important. You're not necessarily targeting the CNN or the Fox News or, whomever.
Although they're out there looking for sources, right?
Sure.
I mean, they could be looking at a nationwide story thinking, well, who can I talk to? And they're happy to talk to anybody anywhere because everybody can hop on Zoom and do an interview.
I mean, hey, you never know, right? Swing for the fences, but engaging with those trade publication reporters, and oftentimes they write for a number of different or contribute to a number of different places and articles and publications. That's going to be really key to growing your brand, at least on Twitter. And
absolutely.
Getting back to the Instagram stories, though, before we go too far down the rabbit hole and I lose my train of thought.
Nah.
Instagram, in for
Squirrel.
people.
Sorry.
What's that?
Squirrel.
We're teasing you. We're teasing you.
Oh. Clearly it worked. It's something that you really want to invest in. Stories are where people like myself, millennials, are hanging out on Instagram. We don't necessarily care for, seeing the pictures. I mean, the pictures are pretty. But if you're going to update daily and have a cadence daily on Instagram, stories is where you want to do it. And it's pretty easy to use. You just go in, tap your little thing up on the upper left-hand side of your screen, and then you record a video of yourself. Or, maybe you're recording a video of the product labels and you can add stickers and emojis.
You know what you do well?
And GIFs. And
I'm gonna inflate your head here a little bit.
Oh gosh.
I know, I'm sorry. We'll deal with him later. But one of the things that you did on an Instagram story that I thought was great, and we got a lot of engagement on, was a day at the office where the printer had quit working and then all of a sudden was spitting out like 50 documents from days. Like we'd been sending stuff to it for days and all of a sudden it decided to work. And it was just a moment in the office where several people were standing around the printer laughing at all this stuff that we were like, that's where it is. So that was a great use of Instagram story to just kind of peek behind the curtain, showcase the camaraderie of the office, and kind of chuckle about a silly, inconsequential thing. And I know that a lot of people might look at that and be like, why on earth? But I can't answer that. I don't know why on earth that's interesting, but it just is.
Right. I mean,
because
it's your
it's a
space.
slice of life. I mean,
right.
And it also shows the human side of M&C, who we are, what we go through. I was thinking a long time ago, I was in a newsroom on an early morning. My boyfriend was with me. So this
that was a while ago.
Very long ago. Anyway, we'd had some disasters in the newsroom with, we actually had the wires came over the wire machines. There were no computers at that time. But anyway, he is back he went in to get a soda. And I hear this terrible noise. And I only wish we had TikTok and all of the stuff that we have now. Then, of course, we didn't even have cell phones. But anyway, I go in there and the machine, he put his money in and the soda machine would drop a cup, and then the soda would go into the cup automatically. It just started spitting cups and spitting soda like okay, now I'm really going to date myself, like a Lucille Ball thing. But anyway,
oh, man.
Literally, we had 50 cups before I could get to unplug the machine because it was spitting so much.
That would have been a brilliant live.
I would have been, it would have gone viral. We could have put ads on it. We could have made money. But anyway, and the fact is, and then we would have had to bleep a lot too, but that's a whole other issue.
Oh, well, anyway, that's true.
But the look on his face because he's in a place that he's not used to being. It's, he's basically in a newsroom. It's just the two of us that are in there because it's so early in the morning, and this is happening. It's that kind of stuff that if you can grab that stuff, if you think about, oh, this would be really cool, then that would be really fun. That would be great.
Yeah. So I want to talk really quickly about communication tools, because you actually have a ton of tools at your disposal. And we call these own media or social media. It's kind of an inside baseball term, but just think about all of the ways that you have to communicate with your customers. You've got your website, right? Keep that fluffed up and cleaned up and nicely presented, and make sure it's up to date. And you can put updates on there. You can, use a blog. We're big on blogs, right? So you can be constantly updating and have new.
You can move those people from your social to your blog, right? I mean, you're educating. That's another place where you can put education and really add, because you're adding to their knowledge, especially in CBD. People want so much to learn more about CBD. You become the place that they go, and your website is filled with information. I have seen some amazing websites out there where I've learned so much about CBD, and I just love it.
Yeah. So that's a great channel. Don't neglect your website. Use that, all the time. And like Diane just mentioned, you can move them from social to your website, or you can move them from social to your blog, and then, provide something of value, which we're going to do in just a minute, by the way. We have the 4 C's coming up. So I'm going to show you how this works in practice. But, get their email. Like I was at a conference, and the person pointed out in this seminar, you don't own your client, you don't own your customer until you own their email. Social media is rented real estate. So you can do brilliant, wonderful, amazing things on social media. Absolutely. But you need to move them from social media into being able to contact them in other ways. You could do it by text. If you've got their text, or you've got, so you can grab their email and communicate with them that way. You can grab their text, their phone number, and text with them, communicate that way. So layer in all of the methods of communication into a strategy to be able to communicate with people on all of the different platforms. I'm going to say it again, be available to your clients, your customers, at their moment of need, where they need you, when they need you.
And even sometimes before they need you. If they're potential clients, it's a great way. You don't want to bug them. It's a relationship. Remember that. This is, going back to old-fashioned times when we used to pick up the phone, or we'd meet somebody for coffee and all the other. Okay, this is a relationship. So you don't want to overtouch, but you want to consistently touch them with things that are relevant to them. And that's a great thing for social media. Jordan was talking about those surveys. Fact is that if you can figure out where they are, where their heads are, what is their pain point, what's relevant to them, and provide answers to those questions, you are going to be somebody who they then, when they need someone in your industry, when they're interested in sleeping better, when they're interested in reducing their anxiety, or when they just want to know more because they're just not sure whether CBD is appropriate for them, who are they going to go to? The person who has given them information, but in a fun and a really relational type way.
Engaging way. So I'm going to pull this up here because Jordan, you wrote a blog a while ago, and at the time it was the 3 C's. Now it's the 4 C's, and I think that's really brilliant. And this is a downloadable, which we'll tell you how to get that in just a second. But go through the 4 C's if you would, please.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, the 4 C's, the first 3 we had were clear, compassionate, and consistent. And we added conversational because if you go back to when we first started this Facebook Live video and we just all reflected on, holy cow, 2020 has been 2020 and all of the things that have happened here, in us trying to kind of lean on one another and, you know, converse in a way that, you know, we're people and, you know, we're neighbors and, you know, we don't have to be best friends, but we're at least acknowledging each other as humans and not robots. It's important that not only we're clear, compassionate, and consistent in our message, but we're also conversational.
Well, and Diane pointed out the other day, and she had to wander off to shut the door and come back because hello, and we're all working from home and
yeah, right.
Talk about compassion, right?
Quietly, nobody would know.
Well, that's okay because my garage door just opened, and so we're all facing the same thing.
Was that the humming that I heard?
That was the humming.
I had a garage door open too, so sorry.
Oh, woo! Okay, so we all have compassion for working from home and trying to do these Zoom calls, which are very consistently interrupted by things. But the conversational part of this, Diane, I want you to go through that example about terpenes and entourage effect and all of this language that we get used to because we know what that is. CBD, THC, you know.
CBN, CBG.
Yeah.
It's fine, and you can hear the garage door going against. I apologize for that. But anyway, it's fine to use those terms, but when you use them, define them right after you're using them, whether you're doing that in general speech, whether you're doing that in something that you're writing. If you say terpenes, explain what terpenes are. Very short explanation, but remember, people are coming to you for all different levels of education. And also remember that those people who are just entering, I always think those are the people who are the greatest possibility for you to turn into a loyal customer, and to really become part of your tribe, because you're really going forward and giving them more information at a time when they really need it. And by using the terms, you're not acting like anyone's dumb here, but you're explaining to them and you're teaching them without being teaching in your face type of thing. So that's where we want you to be really conversational. And then remember, at the very beginning, we talked about using their words, using their phraseology in what you're talking. When I'm talking to my 21-year-old son versus when I'm talking to my 80-year-old mother, I am speaking two different languages. Heavens, I'm speaking way more than two probably. But anyway, I'm speaking different languages. And I want you to do the same thing. You need to think who you are, what voice are you using, and then make sure that anyone else who's doing social media for you is doing the same thing. That's really, really important.
Yeah. And that's just part of, again, a conversation, right? You are building an authentic relationship because you would have a conversational interaction with somebody on the phone, with somebody that you work with maybe somebody that you were romantically interested, right? You're having a two-way conversation to build this relationship.
Then you get married and it's one way. No, sorry, I'm sorry.
No, different webinar entirely. And I don't know when we're going to get to that.
Sorry about that.
Hang on. But you definitely want more of the three of us because we do this every Friday. We have a heck of a good time doing it. We answer your questions. So if you have questions, if you think, oh, I wish I were able to just bounce some ideas off some PR people, I just want to get, ask this question I'd always wanted to know. Hey, you can do that. Send us an email. Sign up for the Move the Stairs blog. You can do it through the Facebook link that is currently live on this Facebook post. You can sign up for the blog and you'll get that emailed to you. But if you want the downloadable doc using the 4 C's to supercharge your communications with your employees, with your customers, your clients, really anyone, you can do that by emailing Jordan, who will deal with all of it and answer all of those emails and take care of everything. Email Jordan.
Yay, Jordan.
Or you can just email me and tell me how awesome I am and feed my ego. Just
and say, oh, Jordan, you work with those 2 gals and I don't know how you do it, man.
I mean, I won't confirm nor deny that I've gotten those emails before.
Okay, well.
Anyway,
I am
we
the
hope
IT
that
director, so I can find out.
Yes, exactly.
This is
So we
true.
really hope we've helped kind of walk you through how you can really build customer loyalty. That it's a great time to do it. I mean, truly a great time to do it. It doesn't take a lot of time. There's really a process, and if you put the process in place, you're going to really reduce the amount of time that it takes. But being consistent, being conversational, being compassionate, meeting people where they are. I mean, if you're talking about COVID, you want to be compassionate. Let's say if you're talking about somebody, just somebody who has been diagnosed, always start with how sorry you are for them, and is there anything that you can do for them? It's that type of thing. It's the same thing you would do if you were having a one-on-one conversation. And we will be back next Friday, and we're going to talk about.
You two will be back. I will not be.
That's right. Sarah's on vacation, but which is good for her. We don't like it very much, but it's okay. It has to happen.
Which we know all hell's going to break loose now that
Yes.
Sarah's out of here.
Hell's the right word. Yes. So whatever. But anyway, so we're going to talk about the power of planning for your brand protection. You all have worked so hard to develop these businesses. You put your heart and soul into it. And because of social media, your reputation can be absolutely destroyed in a matter of 2 minutes. It's just crazy. So what we talk about is brand protection. How do you prepare for the unthinkable, which is now apparently the thinkable.
Totally thinkable.
The past 3 months. I mean, really, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So we help you forecast what might be coming down, but we also give you some great tips on how to, no matter what the situation is, how to figure out how to prepare. And again, we're talking about a 2-page plan. We are not talking about anything that's like a big binder, a 2-page plan that's really going to help prepare you and help protect your company. It's a type of business insurance if you think about it.
Well, and this is a proprietary tool that you've developed. So this is something that M&C uses. This is the process that we use. So you're going to get an inside look at what we've put together through all of the experience and all of the learnings that we've had, and including thinking through how do you monitor for this. So it's a cool system, and I can't wait to get into that. Or I can't wait for you to get into that next week while I'm on.
You'll be watching, I'm sure. Absolutely. Right, Sarah?
I will not have access to Wi-Fi.
We'll send a hotspot with you.
Okay. Thank you.
So we will look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks so much for tuning in today. And again, if you have any questions, just shoot us an email and make sure you download the 4 C's. Have a great day.
Happy Friday, everybody.
Stairs.
Move the stairs.